So, part three, inflammatory bowel disease. Um, it's worth mentioning, as we're picking back up, that if you see bleeding from ulcerative colitis, it might very well be that you see fresh red blood. Um, when you bleed into your colon, um, you're past the part where you get stomach acid that hits those red blood cells. When hydrochloric acid or any acid for that matter breaks down iron, it turns it black. Um, and you neutralize your stomach acid in your duodenum, and you're well past that. So you shouldn't see that anymore. So if you wind up having bleeding from ulcerative colitis and it's any significant amount, you may very well see that as red blood on your stool. In fact, that's one way doctors know if you've been taking your iron pills. Your stool is normally a brownish color. And so if you take iron pills, because iron is absorbed in your duodenum, and it gets neutralized by your stomach acid, and you've been taking a lot of iron, your stool should turn darker. It should be really deep brown to black. And so a doctor will ask you, like, hey, you've been on iron therapy. What color is your stool? And you should say something to the effect of like, hey, doc, my stool has turned darker. It's almost black now. And if that's the case, we know you've been taking your iron pills. But if you're like, my stool is still kind of brown, we know you haven't been taking your iron. So other GI complications from Crohn's disease. So megacolon, this is something where a segment of your colon just kind of blows up like a balloon. And that's just come from colon damage over time. So if you get an area of the colon that's been damaged and the nerves in that area have been destroyed, signals can't get past a certain point. So the damage at that point is narrow and everything behind it just kind of gets blown up and backs up. And so you kind of get this big balloon of stool that's stuck there and very little gets past it. And so that can be a major complication because you have a hard time defecating. And you can wind up with major bacterial overgrowth and an infection risk. One thing that can happen with ulcerative colitis is something called sclerosing cholangitis, where the bile ducts in your liver just get destroyed. And that's not from anything that happens in the colon. That's just a complication of the ulcerative colitis. That's just something that kind of is. So these are just complications of the ulcerative colitis. And then you have other typical autoimmune symptoms of ulcerative colitis. So because it's kind of autoimmune-esque, some people will have arthritis complications. So like people who have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, you can have problems in multiple organ systems. So people with ulcerative colitis can, aside from having gut issues, will have joint issues, and they can also have eye inflammation issues. And again, these are not related to the GI pathology. This is just kind of your body is revved up and going after multiple organ systems at once. So now we'll do a hard switch and talk a little bit about Crohn's disease. And this is different because this can happen anywhere in your GI tract. So anywhere from your mouth to your anus and anywhere in between. So it's really hard to locate. You get it happening a lot more in your small intestine or the first part of your large intestine. That's the area that's usually involved, but it can literally be anywhere in your GI tract. So this changes the problems a person can have, and this makes a problem for your doctor trying to diagnose you and figuring out how they can treat you. So you can get ulcers from Crohn's disease. You can get local swelling in the area that's inflamed. You can get things called fistulas, which are holes that go through the lining of your intestine or your esophagus and tunnel through and make holes to places where they don't belong. You can literally see just about any type of inflammation. And in your next picture, I'll show you an image of what that looks like.